In the heart of a modern American metropolis, where neon lights collided with shadowed alleyways and centuries-old secrets were whispered by the wind through ancient trees, the night carried an unusual chill despite the simmering heat of a nearby volcano that had long been dormant yet ever present. Runa, a woman with determined eyes and a past steeped in mystery, found herself locked in a struggle between freedom and fate. Her reluctant journey was just beginning as she navigated an urban labyrinth that seamlessly blended modernity with the raw power of nature. Runa's life had never been ordinary. Orphaned at a young age and raised by a secretive family whose history was as enigmatic as the symbols etched into their ancestral home, she had always sensed something different pulsing beneath the surface of her veins. That unspoken legacy, long hidden by those who feared its power, had drawn the attention of Drake, an alpha shifter whose smoldering presence was as dangerous as it was alluring. Drake ruled over a hidden world of shifters where the primal instincts of his kind were maintained by honor, duty, and the burning embers of ancient traditions. The story unfolded on one fateful night. Runa was dragged from the fringes of her safe, solitary existence by a force as irresistible as destiny itself. In a dramatic raid in the shadowed outskirts of the city, where ruins of forgotten civilizations mingled with the glare of urban sprawl, Drake's clan ambushed her with precision. The act was not one of cruelty but of calculated necessity. Drake believed that Runa was the key to salvaging not only his fragmented soul but the honor of his lineage. Her capture was, in his eyes, the spark needed to ignite a redemption long overdue. Inside an abandoned warehouse repurposed as the clandestine sanctuary of the shifters, the atmosphere was electric with the anticipation of ancient rituals and the pulse of modern rebellion. Drake, towering and enigmatic with eyes that seemed to hold centuries of sorrow and secrets, approached Runa with a mix of commanding authority and palpable vulnerability. His rugged features, lined with the weight of regret and the scars of a turbulent past, drew her in even as she steeled herself against his magnetic pull. "Runa," he murmured, his tone soft yet edged with an unyielding authority, "I did not bring you here to harm you but to save you. Within you lies a power that can restore balance, not just in me, but in a world torn by discord." His words resonated with a sincerity that belied his initial intent to subdue, leaving Runa simultaneously captivated and repulsed by the depth of his conviction. Uncertain, she challenged him, her voice trembling with a blend of defiance and curiosity. "Save me? From what? I've spent my life running from what I was born into. Your redemption is not mine to claim." The exchange between them crackled like electricity, a collision of destinies that neither could ignore. Outside, the city was a living mosaic of vibrant life and lurking peril, each neon-lit street and abandoned park a silent witness to their unfolding drama. As the hours wore on, Runa was forced to confront the duality of her captor. While Drake's initial actions were marked by a possessive and almost desperate need to control, hints of a tortured soul emerged when he recounted the legends of his people. Over campfires lit by embers and the glow of molten rock from a nearby fissure, he revealed the torment of his past, a past rife with betrayal by a trusted member of his own kin, which had led to devastating consequences not just for him, but for the entire pack. This confession resonated with Runa's own hidden wounds, stirring emotions she had long kept at bay. Their dialogues became a tapestry woven with threads of pain, desire, and latent hope. As they moved through the deserted streets and eventually into an expanse of wild, untamed land beyond the city borders, the narrative evolved into a complex dance of trust and treachery. Runa's inner monologue revealed her conflicted feelings. The fire that dripped from Drake's words ignited a spark within her, but the ominous specter of her heritage and the impending danger lurked just out of sight. Drake, whose every gesture exuded a combination of rugged determination and introspection, spoke in tones that were both assuring and heart-wrenching. "I have wandered a path of solitude and regret for far too long. The guilt of my ancestors, of decisions made in darkness, has haunted me relentlessly. But with you, I sense a possibility for redemption, for healing." His confession was unexpected. It painted him not merely as the ferocious alpha with an unyielding temper but as a man deeply scarred by love lost and betrayals endured. Throughout their journey, the backdrop of a modern yet wild America served as both a literal and metaphorical landscape for their struggles. The bustling urban decay juxtaposed against the serene, haunting beauty of remote wilderness areas created an atmosphere where every step forward was fraught with peril and the promise of renewal. Runa's internal struggle, mirrored by the dangerous unpredictability of the environment, suggested that sometimes the fiercest battles are fought within the heart. At one point, as twilight gave way to the oppressive weight of a starless night, Runa and Drake paused in the ruins of an old industrial complex. Amid the crumbling facades and ghostly echoes of a bygone era, they found themselves at a crossroads, both physically and emotionally. Runa's reflective gaze met Drake's, and in that silent exchange, the stakes of their intertwined fates became indisputably clear. The realization dawned on her that her captivity was not merely an act of dominance but a desperate attempt by a broken soul to reclaim a lost honor. In hushed tones, Runa recounted fragments of a family legend, a legacy of secret rituals, forbidden unions, and betrayals that had rippled through generations. Each word, heavy with despair yet laced with an undeniable longing for freedom, revealed the vulnerabilities that made her so much more than a pawn in Drake's elaborate scheme. "You speak of redemption as if it were a simple cure," she whispered, the sound of her voice blending with the murmur of the wind through shattered glass. "But the past is a labyrinth from which I cannot escape, no matter how fervently I wish to be free." Drake's response was a steady murmur against the backdrop of a rumbling earth. "And yet, isn't it the very labyrinth we must navigate to unearth a brighter future? Perhaps my mistakes are not chains but keys, to understanding, to forgiveness, and to a destiny that transcends the sins of the past." His eyes, fierce and yet tender, held a glimmer of hope that resonated deep within Runa's conflicted soul. This dialogue was not merely verbal sparring but an unveiling of two souls wrestling with destiny, each word further blurring the lines between captor and redeemer. The tension between them grew with each passing moment, building toward an inevitable climax that promised both catastrophic loss and sublime redemption. As they delved deeper into territories marked by fire-scorched ruins and the unmistakable pulse of the supernatural, the stakes were raised. The city's vibrant chaos and the raw majesty of the wild converged to create an arena where the truth about their origins, the legacy of Drake's clan, and the shadows of Runa's lineage were destined to collide. Suddenly, amid the interplay of flame and darkness, an unexpected visitor arrived. A figure cloaked in enigmatic secrets and carrying the weight of a revelation that could forever alter their precarious balance. The newcomer, whose presence was felt before they were seen, brought with them hints of treachery hidden within Drake's own pack, a betrayal that threatened not only his leadership but the very future of their intertwined worlds. As the confrontation loomed on the horizon, Runa's mind raced. The intricate web of loyalties, ancient curses, and personal vendettas began to unravel in her thoughts. Every step toward a potential resolution was now overlaid with the recognition that nothing was as it seemed. In the charged silence of that critical juncture, the complexities of their relationship, the scars of past deceptions, and the uncertain promise of redemption merged into a singular, electrifying moment. In those final moments of the night, as Drake prepared to confront the ominous revelations that the mysterious visitor carried, Runa faced an inescapable choice: to continue resisting a destiny that bound her in chains of secrecy and sorrow, or to embrace the fiery connection that might very well be the catalyst for a transformative destiny. The winds howled around them, and the murmurs of the past whispered with the promise of a new dawn, a dawn that would require both of them to confront the darkest aspects of their souls. The chapter closed with a charged atmosphere, the embers of a long-held promise flickering against the overwhelming tide of impending change. Every moment pulsed with the tension of choices yet to be made, relationships waiting to be mended, and betrayals that loomed like specters in the background, each one a reminder that the path to redemption was paved with sacrifice, truth, and the courage to confront one's own nature. As dawn broke over the smoldering horizon, the remnants of the mysterious visitor's warning still hung heavy in the charged air. Drake's eyes, darkened by a storm of conflicting emotions, were fixed on the fading silhouette of the stranger as they retreated into the eerie embrace of the urban wilderness. The revelation of betrayal within his pack had ignited an unrest that pulsed like wildfire in the veins of his legacy, and now the path ahead was veiled in uncertainty and peril. In the quiet aftermath of that charged confrontation, Drake led Runa deeper into the labyrinthine backstreets of a forgotten section of the city, a place where aged brick facades and rusted relics told the stories of generations lost in time. The district, once a thriving nexus of secret societies and whispered conspiracies, now lay dormant under an oppressive, sullen sky. It was here that the aura of the supernatural mingled with the concrete reality of modern decay, each crumbling edifice echoing with regrets and memories. Drake's clan, ever wary of internal strife, had long maintained a fragile balance between honor and survival. Now, with treachery penetrating their ranks, he realized the need to confront the festering wounds of the past head-on. His mind replayed countless nights where the moon bore silent witness to his inner torment, times when the full moon's silver radiance unmasked the vulnerabilities of a proud alpha. Yet none of those moments compared to the profound disquiet unleashed by the visitor's cryptic words. His heart, burdened by years of guilt and redemption sought in vain, quickened its pace as he navigated the narrow lanes towards a hidden sanctuary known only to a select few. Runa trailed behind him, her footsteps echoing softly on the uneven pavement. The captive within her wrestled with the duality of her existence, torn between the instinct for self-preservation and the dawning realization that her fate was inexorably intertwined with Drake's. The storm of emotions, both visceral and intellectual, surged within her as she revisited the fragments of memories long shrouded by secrecy. Every alleyway, every rusted doorway whispered tales of an ancestry marred by clandestine pacts and eternal curses. In these moments, Runa's mind became a canvas splattered with uncertain colors of longing, defiance, and an ever-present undercurrent of vulnerability. As they arrived at a clandestine meeting place, an old industrial loft hidden behind a deceptive facade of anonymity, Drake halted abruptly. His eyes, scanning the periphery with the precision of a predator, spoke volumes of the inner turmoil brewing beneath his rugged exterior. Inside, the space was dimly lit by flickering chandeliers and shadows that danced along the walls, each movement suggesting the possibility of unseen threats. A soft murmur of voices greeted them, and among those present emerged Silas, Drake's trusted second-in-command. The tension in the room was palpable. Every shifter was acutely aware that the clan's unity was on the brink of shattering. Silas, with his measured tone and calculating gaze, wasted no time in laying out the gravity of the situation. Drake, the visitor wasn't an isolated messenger but part of a larger conspiracy. There are factions within our ranks that have long yearned for power over tradition, those who resent our adherence to the old ways. His words resonated with the inevitability of a storm gathering strength on the horizon. Drake's voice, roughened by emotions he had fought to contain, interjected sharply, "And you believe one among us is actively working to undermine everything we stand for?" His tone was a mixture of disbelief and bitter resolve. Runa observed the exchange with a growing sense of admiration mixed with trepidation. Here was a man caught in the tumult of legacy and ambition, struggling to reconcile the brutal demands of leadership with the fragility of his own mortality. Silas nodded solemnly before continuing, "There have been subtle hints, the disappearance of sacred relics, clandestine meetings under the cover of night, and the recent acts of sabotage that have threatened our sanctuaries. It is as if someone has been orchestrating an insidious plan to fracture our unity and usurp Drake's authority." His eyes met Runa's for a fleeting moment, as if silently urging her to absorb the weight of the clan's peril. That night, within the echoing corridors of the loft, revelations took on a dangerous clarity. Amid a symphony of whispered conversations and the rustling of aged papers, Drake and his council pieced together fragments of a conspiracy that traced its roots back to a time when the shifter's world was young and riddled with ancient disputes. Among the recovered documents lay the testimony of an elder whose words painted a grim picture of an internal betrayal, a betrayal that had been brewing unnoticed under the veneer of loyalty. The documents hinted that the visitor was not merely a harbinger of doom but a pawn in a much larger game, one that could potentially tear apart the very fabric of the shifter society. Deep in thought, Drake retreated to a quiet corner of the loft, leaving Runa to wander amidst the shelves filled with relics of a bygone era. There, surrounded by memories of both glory and ruin, she found herself drawn to an ornate, leather-bound journal that seemed to pulse with an inner life. Its pages were filled with cryptic entries, a blend of poetic musings and dire warnings passed down by forebears who had once navigated the treacherous intersection of supernatural power and mortal frailty. With each carefully penned sentence, Runa's understanding of her own heritage deepened, as if the journal were a mirror reflecting back the painful truths that had long been concealed. The ink-stained pages whispered secrets of forbidden love, bitter feuds, and the binding of souls in moments of both exultation and sorrow. Unable to resist the pull of this newfound knowledge, Runa sought out Drake once more. "There's a story here, a legacy that has been obscured by time and silence," she murmured, holding the journal close as if it were a cherished confidant. "It speaks of sacrifices that were made in the shadows, of betrayals that echo to this very day." Her eyes, luminous with the intensity of discovery, searched Drake's face for a sign of recognition. Drake's response was a profound mix of regret and determination. "Every shifter carries the burden of our shared history, a history filled with light and darkness in equal measure. I have long sought to atone for the sins of our forefathers. Perhaps this journal is a key, a means by which we can navigate the labyrinth of our past and secure a future free from internal discord." His voice softened as he added, "Your courage in embracing these truths may yet be the catalyst that transforms our curse into a beacon of hope." Their conversation was abruptly interrupted by the arrival of Marisol, a fierce and enigmatic figure whose loyalty to the clan had been unwavering for decades. Marisol's eyes, tempered by years of hardship and loss, scanned the room with a critical gaze. "Drake, while you grapple with the weight of ancient regrets, the threat among us grows more tangible by the moment," she warned. "I have heard whispers that suggest a deeper conspiracy, a link between our internal treachery and external forces that seek to exploit our supernatural legacy for nefarious ends." Her words sent a ripple of alarm through the assembly, igniting a renewed sense of urgency. As the night deepened, alliances were reformed and suspicions redoubled. Drake realized that to counter the impending threat, he must not only root out the traitors within but also confront the unresolved shadows of his past. In a private meeting held in the sanctum of an overgrown courtyard hidden beneath the derelict city hall, Drake confided in Runa his most painful secret, a confession that had haunted him ever since the bloodshed within his clan decimated the lives of those he held dear. "I once believed that redemption was a myth, a fool's hope in the face of relentless darkness," he admitted, his voice trembling with vulnerability. "But meeting you, witnessing the spark of resilience in your eyes, has kindled a belief that perhaps we can rewrite our destinies." Runa, moved by his earnestness, replied with a quiet firmness, "Redemption is not a destination, Drake. It is a journey paved with the willingness to face our innermost fears. In your confession, I hear a promise, a commitment to rebuild what has been shattered, even if it means facing the treacherous fires of our past." Their exchange was a delicate dance between hope and despair, as each word and gesture deepened the unspoken bond that tethered them together against the encroaching chaos. Outside, the city was slowly awakening to a new day, its vibrant heartbeat merging with the relentless pulse of ancient forces. The sun's nascent rays illuminated the struggle within the shifter's domain, casting long shadows that were haunted by the specters of ancestral sins. Amid the growing light, a palpable shift took place, an acknowledgement that their fates were entwined with the unpredictable currents of destiny. Every step forward, every whispered revelation, carried with it the promise of either salvation or ruin. Drake, now resolute in his determination to secure his clan's future, convened a circle of trusted allies to devise a plan to unmask the traitors among them. "We must be relentless in our pursuit of truth," he decreed, his voice echoing with both authority and empathy. "The betrayal that festers within our midst threatens not just our collective legacy, but the very essence of our existence. We owe it to those who came before us, and to those yet to follow, to reclaim our honor by exposing the darkness that has long shrouded our past." His declaration was met with murmurs of agreement, as the assembled shifters silently vowed to protect their community at any cost. In the ensuing days, as investigations were launched and suspicions turned into cautious inquiries, Runa found herself increasingly drawn to the enigmatic intersections of fate and memory. Guided by the wisdom of the ancient journal and the raw emotion pulsating within her, she began to unlock the cryptic codes embedded in her family's lore. Each deciphered passage and uncovered secret felt like a step closer to reclaiming a destiny that had long eluded her grasp. In the quiet moments of introspection, when the world around her fell silent, she pondered the nature of loyalty, betrayal, and the transformative power of truth. Yet, as clarity began to emerge from the darkness, so too did the looming threat of a collision that promised to shatter their newfound unity. The saboteurs within the clan, ever adept at concealment, were growing bolder. Strange occurrences, disappearances, unexplainable disruptions, and subtle acts of aggression serviced a mounting tension. The air itself seemed to crackle with the foreboding sense that the past was converging with the present, setting the stage for a confrontation that might irrevocably redefine the boundaries between redemption and damnation. In one fateful evening, as twilight surrendered to a velvet night punctuated by a tapestry of stars, Drake received an urgent summons from an informant whose identity was concealed behind layers of deception. The informant's message was succinct yet laden with ominous detail. A secret meeting was to be held at an abandoned industrial park on the outskirts of the city, a place where the echoes of long-forgotten battles mingled with the murmur of modern rebellion. With no time to spare, Drake and a select group of loyalists raced through the city's winding streets, their minds racing with both anticipation and dread. In the eerie silence of the industrial park, under the ghostly luminescence of flickering streetlights, Drake encountered a masked figure whose presence exuded both menace and mystery. The figure's voice, distorted by a modulator and laced with venom, accused Drake of being complicit in the betrayal of their sacred rites. "Your past is not erased by time, Drake," the voice hissed, "and the sins of your ancestors are not so easily absolved." With that single sentence, A maelstrom of emotions erupted. Rage, sorrow, and the desperate need for retribution surged in equal measure. Caught in the crossfire of duty and personal anguish, Drake struggled to maintain his composure. The confrontation escalated rapidly, and in the ensuing chaos, it became painfully clear that the very foundation of his leadership was at stake. Runa, whose presence had grown to be indispensable amid the turbulence, intervened with a resolute command. "Enough!" she cried, her voice piercing through the din like a clarion call to reason. "We cannot allow old grudges and unchecked passions to dictate our future. This is a time for truth, not for vengeance." Her words, filled with an unwavering resolve, momentarily halted the barrage of accusations. In that suspended moment, the masked assailant faltered, leaving behind a trace of uncertainty that hung in the frigid air. Drake, seizing the opening, demanded to know the true nature of the treachery that threatened his clan. The reply was a mesh of half-truths and veiled threats, each sentence a strand in the dark tapestry of conspiracy. The intense standoff left scars not only on the aged concrete of the abandoned park but on the souls of those present. As the masked figure melted back into the shadows, Drake and his loyalists were left with more questions than answers, their trust in the established order eroded by the relentless tides of deception. In that moment of reckoning, the fragile promise of unity shuddered on the brink of collapse, with each heartbeat echoing the specter of an uncertain future. Under the heavy shroud of night, as the wounded pride of the pack struggled to mend its fractured bonds, Runa and Drake retreated to a secluded safe house to regroup and reassess their strategy. In the intimate solitude of that temporary refuge, memories of past sorrows mingled with the hope of tomorrow's redemption. Their conversation turned inward, a raw, unfiltered examination of what it meant to be bound by destiny, to shoulder the collective sins of a lineage marred by betrayal, and to seek a future where light could emerge from the darkest of legacies. Drake's voice softened as he confided, "I have borne this burden for far too long, trapped in a cycle of pain and regret. Yet in you I see not just a prisoner of fate but a catalyst for change, a spark that might ignite the transformation we so desperately need." Runa, her expression a tapestry of compassion and steely resolve, responded, "We must confront our inner demons if we are to ever shatter the chains of our past. Only by embracing our truth, however painful it may be, can we pave the way for genuine redemption." In that shared moment of vulnerability, an unspoken vow was forged between them. A pledge to confront the darkness lurking both within and outside, to stand together against the relentless forces that threatened to undo everything they had fought for. As the first light of dawn began to pierce the horizon, their resolve crystallized into an unwavering commitment, to unearth the hidden machinations of betrayal, to decode the ancient secrets inscribed in the pages of forgotten lore, and ultimately to restore honor and unity to a legacy scarred by treachery. Every whispered promise, every resolute word in that safe haven, echoed with the strength of hearts united in purpose. Yet even as hope flickered in the burgeoning light of a new day, the specter of danger loomed large, a reminder that the path to redemption was strewn with obstacles, each more perilous than the last. The impending confrontation with the traitors within, combined with the enigmatic forces orchestrating the discord, set the stage for a future where every choice would demand the ultimate sacrifice. The chapter closed as the safe house's creaking door swung open to reveal the first rays of sun, casting a warm glow on determined faces and kindling the embers of renewed resolve. In that fragile silence between night and day, amid the promise of a future yet to be written, Runa and Drake understood that their journey was far from over. The maze of secrets, betrayals, and ancient curses awaited them, beckoning with both threat and hope, a duality that would define the very essence of their intertwined destinies. Their hearts, now a blend of pain and perseverance, beat in unison with the rhythm of a world on the cusp of transformation. Each moment, fraught with danger yet laced with the possibility of absolution, carried them one step closer to the ultimate reckoning, a reckoning that promised to unshackle their souls from the burden of a haunted past. In the quiet wake of a restless night, as the lingering echoes of promises and betrayals still clung to the chill of pre-dawn, Runa and Drake found themselves venturing deeper into the enigmas that their intertwined fates had conjured. The safe house had offered temporary solace, but the secrecy and scheming that shrouded the clan demanded answers that could not be delayed. With the ancient journal in hand and hearts emboldened by the resolve to vanquish inner demons, they set out on a journey that would soon pit them against revelations capable of shattering old perceptions and forging an entirely new destiny. The journey led them to the outskirts of the city, to a hidden library carved into the ruins of an old estate, a relic of opulence and mystery from an era when both magic and money dictated destinies. Amid towering shelves laden with dusty tomes and fragile manuscripts, the air vibrated with the silent testimony of generations past. Here, amid the interplay of shadow and light, Runa hoped to uncover not only the elusive secrets of her own bloodline but also insights into the clandestine machinations that had imperiled Drake's clan. Drake, though burdened by the weight of his own haunted past, felt an unfamiliar thrill as he stepped into the library. "There is power in these words," he murmured, running his fingers along the spines of archaic volumes as if seeking communion with the long-departed keepers of ancient lore. His tone, usually so controlled, carried the tremor of suppressed emotion. Each page speaks of sins and sacrifices, of promises made in the twilight and shattered under the glare of unyielding truth. Runa, equally transfixed by the ambience of hidden knowledge, opened a leather-bound volume that appeared less worn than the others, its cover embossed with symbols that resonated deep within her core. "This text, it feels personal," she whispered almost to herself. As she flipped through the yellowed pages, words began to unfurl a narrative that blurred the lines between myth and her own blood. There were accounts of forbidden unions, secret pacts forged under blood moons, and a prophecy that foretold the unification of two disparate legacies, a convergence that promised both salvation and profound upheaval. Suddenly, as if stirred by their collective yearning for truth, the library door creaked open, drawing both Runa's and Drake's startled attention. In the dim light of early morning, a figure emerged, elder, dignified, with eyes that bore the weight of countless stories. The newcomer introduced himself as Elias, a devoted keeper of the estate's lore and, as it turned out, the last surviving member of a family entrusted with the records of the Shifter's ancient covenant. "Your search for truth is not without precedent," Elias intoned, his voice resonant and calm. "I have been awaiting the moment when destiny would reunite the seekers of our history. The pages before you contain revelations that must be understood, for they illuminate a secret far more entangled than you can imagine." His words, imbued with both authority and an undercurrent of melancholy, sent a shiver through Runa and Drake, as if the fabric of their lives was being rewoven before their eyes. Elias beckoned them to sit at a heavy, time-worn desk scattered with artifacts, a cracked mirror framed in ornate silver, a set of faded photographs hinting at a bygone era, and a peculiar locket that pulsed faintly with an inner light. "Within this record lies the truth of your origins," he explained, slowly unfastening a hidden drawer to reveal a collection of documents, personal correspondences, and an engraved medallion. "For centuries our clans have guarded a legacy of intertwining destinies, a secret that binds the fate of shifters with that of mortal realms." As Elias unraveled the parchment, the words painted a tapestry of a forgotten alliance. The account revealed that the Alpha's lineage was not solely one of beasts and battles, but also of a celestial pact forged long ago between a powerful supernatural being and a human heiress. Runa's family, it was written, descended from that heiress, a lineage thought to be extinguished, yet reborn in a form as mystifying as it was potent. Her blood, it turned out, carried the promise of reconciliation between two worlds, a gift that had been shrouded in darkness by envious rivals and fractured allegiances. Drake's expression hardened as he listened to Elias's narrative, the revelation stirring tumultuous emotions within him. His eyes narrowed with the realization that his lifelong quest for redemption was inexorably linked to secrets far older than his own misdeeds. "So it is true," he murmured, voice rough with disbelief. "The sins of our ancestors were not just a chain upon us, they were a roadmap. And if what you say is true, then Runa's destiny has been intertwined with ours from the very beginning." Runa felt a rush of conflicting emotions surge through her, a mix of awe, fear, and an overwhelming sense of duty. "All my life, I have felt the call of something beyond the ordinary," she confessed in a tone that oscillated between wonder and trepidation. "Now I understand that it wasn't a mere instinct, but a summons to fulfill a prophecy written in blood and sealed with fate. How can I trust this, Elias? How can I accept that my past, my very identity, is a piece of a puzzle much larger than I ever imagined?" Elias regarded her with a compassionate smile, the lines of time etched upon his face softening his otherwise austere demeanor. "Trust is earned through the revelation of truth," he replied gently. "The shadows of our history may be dark, but they also harbor the luminescence of redemption. Know that your destiny, as foretold by this covenant, holds the potential to mend what has been torn asunder for generations." His eyes moved to Drake, now standing with his arms folded in contemplation. "And you, my friend, are not merely a guardian of your clan's honor but a herald of a new era, one where the old grievances can be reconciled through the union of fated souls." As Elias's words sank in, A tangible shift in the atmosphere ensued, one where the palpable tensions of the past gave way to a fragile hope for transformation. Yet even as revelations cascaded like a torrent of overdue confessions, doubts and hidden dangers lurked just beyond the periphery of their newfound understanding. The stirrings of an impending betrayal, hinted at in earlier conspiracies, began to re-emerge like ghostly reminders of unfinished conflicts. Elias's eyes darkened momentarily as he cautioned, "Remember, the legacy you seek to embrace has enemies who would see the prophecy undone. Forces from beyond our kin, driven by envy and desire for power, have long conspired to keep this truth buried in darkness." Drake's mind raced with the implications of such treachery. The revelation that Runa's blood held the key to an ancient covenant augmented not only her importance but also the imminent threat to their existence. "Then we must act quickly," he declared, his tone resolute. "We cannot allow external forces to manipulate our fate. This newfound knowledge, this undeniable link between our families, must be protected at all costs." His voice echoed with the determination of a man who had reconciled with the anguish of his past and was now poised to forge a path toward salvation. In that moment of unity, Runa and Drake realized that their individual quests for freedom and redemption were not solitary battles but parts of a grander crusade, a collective fight to restore a fractured legacy and honor the sacrifices of those who had come before them. Their conversation, filled with potent declarations and heartfelt admissions, wove together the disparate threads of love, duty, and destiny into a resolute vow. "We stand at a crossroads where the past and future converge," Runa proclaimed, her voice steady despite the tumult in her heart. "Our choices from this day forward will not only determine our survival but also the reawakening of a legacy that has long been smothered by betrayal and secrets." Drake's gaze hardened with unwavering commitment. "We will confront those who seek to exploit our heritage," he vowed, "and we will harness the power of this truth to unite our people. No longer will our lineage be used as a pawn in a game of shadows. Today we reclaim not only our honor but also the promise of a future defined by unity and truth." Yet even as these determined words sealed their pact, the library's ancient walls seemed to vibrate with a foreboding energy, a reminder that destiny rarely unfolds without resistance. The faint sound of hurried footsteps and hushed voices outside the musty corridors of the estate heralded the arrival of an intruder. Elias's expression shifted from one of calm wisdom to fierce urgency. "We are not alone," he warned, his eyes darting toward a narrow window where silhouettes moved with stealth. "The enemies of our covenant have discovered our sanctum. They seek to snatch away this truth before it can fortify you." Without missing a beat, Drake and Runa quickly gathered the invaluable documents, Elias's medallion, and the journal that had chronicled the prophecy of old. Their actions were methodical yet desperate, each second ticking away like grains of sand in the hourglass of fate. As the intruder's presence became undeniable, a cacophony of shouts and the clatter of ancient wood, the trio prepared to defend the sanctity of their discovery. Drake's voice, imbued with a hardened determination, called out as he moved to block the entry. "You will not extinguish the light of our past." His words rang out as a rallying cry, echoing against the stone walls, igniting a spark of defiance in Runa's eyes. In the ensuing chaos, shadows clashed with determination, and the sanctum transformed into a crucible for the ultimate test of faith and unity. Runa, clutching the journal to her chest, found her voice amid the tumult. "These secrets are not mere words, they are the lifeblood of our heritage. We will safeguard them, and in doing so, we will forge a future where the scars of betrayal are healed." Her declaration was a blend of raw passion and unyielding resolve, spurring her to stand shoulder to shoulder with Drake and Elias against the encroaching threat. In the skirmish that followed, the reverberations of a long-hidden conflict awakened. The intruders, determined to silence the call of prophecy, clashed fiercely with the defenders of truth. Amid the tumult, Drake's leadership shone through. Every calculated maneuver and decisive command lent strength to their beleaguered allies. The struggle felt both timeless and urgent, a symbolic battle between the forces of subterfuge and the unbreakable spirit of those bound by destiny. As the echoes of combat subsided and the invaders were driven away, an eerie calm reclaimed the space. Yet, the victory was bittersweet. The scars of confrontation marred the sanctum, and the revelations uncovered carried with them the weight of future challenges. Standing amidst the remnants of shattered glass and scattered manuscripts, Drake and Runa exchanged a look that spoke of shared loss and impending resolve. They knew that this was merely a prelude, a spark in the tinderbox of fate that would soon ignite a conflagration of retribution and salvation. Drake's voice, quiet but resolute, broke the silence. This confrontation has only confirmed what we already suspected. The legacy we carry is coveted by those who thrive on chaos. His eyes met Runa's in a fervent gaze, conveying an unspoken promise of protection and mutual strength. We must be prepared for what comes next, for the stakes have never been higher. Runa's response was measured, yet charged with a newfound determination. Every secret unveiled, every betrayal endured, brings us closer to the truth. Even if the shadows gather to obscure our light, we will remain steadfast. Our union is not just personal, it is a beacon for all who believe that redemption can arise from even the darkest of legacies. In the waning moments of that fateful day, as the early light seeped through the shattered windows, the trio gathered the salvaged relics with solemn purpose. The ancient medallion, the cryptic journal, and Elias's carefully guarded parchments were not merely artifacts of a forgotten past but symbols of a promise yet to be fulfilled. A promise of healing, unity, and an awakening of the spirit. Drake and Runa stepped out of the time-worn library into the brisk morning air, their hearts still echoing with the battle's reverberations. Each step they took was measured and deliberate, as if the very ground acknowledged the gravity of their burden and the brilliance of the destiny that awaited them. In that subtle moment, beneath the open sky and the watchful gaze of history, they silently vowed to protect the legacy that bound them, a legacy that held the power to not only redeem old wounds but also reshape the future of both their worlds. As they moved forward into the uncertain light of day, the revelations of the past pulsed like a dormant ember, ready to be ignited by actions yet to be taken. The power of the ancient covenant now lay in their hands, and with it came the promise of a new era. A moment when the sins of the past would be confronted, forgiven, and transformed into a future forged in truth and courage. Their journey, tumultuous and laden with secrets, had reached a pivotal crossroad, a moment when every choice carried the weight of fate and every heartbeat echoed the call of destiny. The path ahead was fraught with perils as yet unseen, but within the depths of their intertwined souls burned the unyielding fire of conviction. In the silent communion of renewed purpose, they knew one truth above all. Redemption was not a single, isolated act, but a continuous struggle, a battle waged in the shadows until the final light of awakening. In the aftermath of their perilous encounter at the ancient library, Drake and Runa pressed onward into a realm of uncertainty and foreboding revelations. The cool morning light had given way to a day tinged with an uncharacteristic stillness. As they hurried from the shattered remnants of the sanctuary, the weight of the newly uncovered prophecy bore down upon them like an ever-present shadow. In this fragile interlude between chaos and order, their hearts pounded with equal measures of determination and dread. The city's outskirts, once a medley of urban decay and natural splendor, now seemed transformed into a chessboard upon which every alley, every deserted building, concealed a potential enemy. With Elias's parting words echoing in their minds, urging caution and the swift embrace of destiny, Drake and Runa found themselves delving into secret passageways that linked the modern world with the ancient paths of their forebears. The hidden network of tunnels beneath the city, known only to the shifter elders, beckoned like a labyrinth of memories and unfinished battles. Navigating by the faint luminescence of bioluminescent moss and the intermittent glow of an ancient pendant carried by Drake, the pair embarked on a journey that transcended the physical terrain. Their path was interspersed with sporadic moments of silence and fervent exchanges, where every whispered word seemed to summon the spirits of those long past. "Do you ever wonder," Drake mused in a hushed tone as they paused near a crumbling archway, "if our fates were predetermined by the blood that courses through our veins? Every step we take feels like retracing the steps of our ancestors, desperate to break free of a curse they never chose." Runa's eyes, vivid and searching in the dim passage, met his. "I've always questioned the nature of destiny," she replied, her voice trembling with a mix of uncertainty and resolve. "But now, I sense that these secret corridors carry more than just our history. They hold clues to the powers we have yet to master, and the treachery that still festers within our kind." Her words resonated with an urgency that belied the lingering pain of past betrayals. As they progressed deeper into the tunnels, the subtle vibrations beneath their feet grew stronger, as though the very earth was alive with the pulse of an ancient heartbeat. Mottled stone walls, etched with symbols of forgotten lore, served as silent witnesses to the myriad sacrifices and betrayals that had shaped the shifter legacy. Every turn in the underground maze unraveled fragments of a storied past, a chronicle of rebellions, secret alliances, and the eternal struggle between light and darkness. Their journey was abruptly interrupted by distant echoes, a rhythmic drumming that soon coalesced into a cacophony of anxious murmurs and clashing footsteps. Drake's instincts sharpened, and he signaled for Runa to take cover behind a rugged stone arch. Peering through a gap in the shadows, he observed figures moving in coordinated precision, their forms shifting between human and lupin silhouettes as they patrolled the tunnel corridor. These were no ordinary intruders. They were renegade shifters, dissenters who had broken away from the traditional code and embraced a path of ruthless ambition. Their presence in the depths of the city's underbelly suggested that the conspiracy Elias had hinted at extended further than anyone had anticipated. "Over here," whispered Drake urgently, drawing Runa to a narrow alcove concealed by an ancient tapestry hung against the wall, a relic from an era when art and mysticism intertwined. Hidden behind the faded fabric, the two watched as the intruders exchanged terse words in a language that resonated with primordial cadence. Their conversation, punctuated by guttural snarls and coded phrases, hinted at a mutinous plan aimed at seizing control of the shifter lineage's sacred relics, including the enigmatic medallion now firmly in Drake's possession. Runa's heart pounded as she listened to their accusations. "They claim that the bloodline of the heiress, my bloodline, is the only path to unbridled power," she murmured, fear and anger mingling in her tone. "If they succeed, the balance between our world and the mortal realm will shatter irrevocably." Drake's jaw tightened as he calculated their next move. "We can't let them accomplish their devious designs," he stated with grim determination. "The legacy we are entrusted with is not merely a symbol of our ancestry, it is the foundation of our future. We must intercept them before they reach the artifact repository back in the upper tunnels." His authoritative command was laced with a sense of finality, a vow that the treachery embedded within their society would face absolute reckoning. The intruders, caught unaware by the silent vigilance of their pursuers, soon dispersed into smaller groups to cover more ground in their quest. Drake and Runa, using the network of secret passages known only to the faithful few, navigated through dim corridors and hidden staircases carved into the underworld of the city. Their dialogue during this tense pursuit was both strategic and personal, a blend of tactical planning and reflective introspection that lent gravitas to the unfolding drama. In quiet moments as they took refuge in abandoned chambers, Drake confided the depth of his inner torment. "Every step I take reminds me of the guilt I've carried for the misdeeds of my ancestors," he admitted, his voice barely audible against the drip of condensation from the aged walls. "I feel as if I am perpetually penance for the sins that persist in our veins. But now, with your presence and this newfound purpose, perhaps there is a chance to set things right." Runa listened intently, her own experiences of isolation and conflict echoing in his admission. "I have spent my life burdened by the secrets of my lineage," she said softly, wondering if freedom from the curse was ever possible. "Now, as I uncover the truth, I realize that our fates are intertwined. Our pain, our love, and even our betrayals are threads in the larger tapestry of destiny." Her words, both heartfelt and fierce, underscored the urgency of the moment, a call to arms against those who sought to redefine the legacy of their kind for selfish ends. Eventually, the corridors of the underground opened into a vast subterranean hall, a secret vault that served as both a repository and a sanctum for the shifter's most sacred artifacts. Here, luminous crystals embedded in the ceiling diffused a ghostly light over relics that spanned millennia, ceremonial weapons, intricately carved totems, and manuscripts chronicling both heroic triumphs and tragic downfalls. At the heart of the hall, atop a stone pedestal, lay the revered archive, a collection of texts that chronicled the ancient covenant and the prophetic union of the shifter and human bloodlines. Drake stepped forward reverently, his eyes fixed on the archive as if it were a mirror reflecting the collective soul of his people. "This archive is more than a record," he said, his voice rich with veneration and despair. "It is the spiritual compass that guides our every decision, every sacrifice. To disturb it would be to risk unraveling the very fabric of our legacy." His words were abruptly cut short by the low rumble of an approaching force, as if the vault itself were warning them of imminent danger. Just then, the ground trembled beneath their feet, and the hall was cast into a sudden, disorienting darkness as a power outage rippled through the ancient structure. The abrupt silence that followed was profound, broken only by the labored breaths of those in hiding and the subtle clink of ancient relics swaying in the stillness. In that heart-stopping moment, the renegade shifters made their move. Figures emerged from concealed alcoves, their eyes burning with a feral intensity, a predatory glimmer that bespoke their unbridled ambition. Amid the chaos, a fierce struggle erupted. Drake, ever the leader, roared an order to his allied shifters who had secretly joined forces with him, and a clash of titanic wills ensued. The sounds of snapping branches, guttural snarls, and the metallic ring of clashing weapons resonated through the vault. Runa, armed with nothing more than her resolve and the weight of her destiny, deftly maneuvered through the fray, her eyes alight with defiance. She found herself face to face with a renegade fighter whose features were twisted by the hunger for power. "You dare desecrate our heritage," she hissed fiercely. The words were punctuated by the flash of a blade that almost matched her speed in defense. Their duel became a microcosm of the broader battle, a confrontation between preservation and subversion, between those who revered their sacred past and those who would manipulate it for dominion. In a fleeting moment of distraction, the leader of the insurgents, a formidable shifter with scars etched deep into his visage, seized the opportunity to approach the archive. Drake's heart pounded in terror as he witnessed the intruder's intent, to steal the sacred texts and shatter the foundation of their people's truth. "No!" Drake bellowed, launching himself at the interloper with a ferocity born of righteous indignation. Their struggle was a whirlwind of force and fervor, each blow reverberating with the history of endless battles fought for honor and survival. Runa, recognizing the gravity of the situation, rallied a small contingent of loyalists to fortify the archive's chamber. As she rushed to secure the ancient manuscripts within a reinforced vault, the very essence of her lineage surged through her, lending her strength that defied the excruciating pain of betrayal and loss. "We must protect this legacy," she cried out, her voice resonating with a passion that transcended generations. "If these records fall into the hands of traitors, all we have fought for will be lost." Drake's duel raged on in the flickering half-light as his adversary, fueled by a relentless hunger for supremacy, chipped away at his defenses. In the midst of the physical and ideological battle, a profound epiphany began to take shape in Drake's mind. The confrontation was more than a mere clash of power, it was the manifestation of a deep-seated fracture within his very soul. Every scar, every regret transformed into both a weapon and a shield. With renewed vigor, he rallied his strength and, with a decisive strike, subdued the insurgent leader. The defeated foe collapsed in a heap of broken ambition, leaving behind an unsettling silence that slowly settled over the vault. For several breathless moments, time seemed to suspend as both allies and adversaries alike took in the magnitude of what had just transpired. In the quiet that followed, the archive's ancient pages fluttered in a cool underground breeze, each rustle carrying the whispered memories of a millennia-long struggle for identity and truth. Drake, battered yet unbroken, looked toward Runa with an intensity that mingled hope with the raw pain of his burdens. "This night has awakened a reckoning that will redefine us," he murmured. "Our history is not a chain to be borne but a torch to ignite change. Let this victory mark the moment when we reclaim our honor." Runa's eyes glistened with both tears and determination as she carefully fastened the reinforced lock on the vault. "We have only won a battle tonight," she cautioned softly, "but the war against the dark forces that seek to manipulate our destiny rages on. We must be ever vigilant, united in our purpose to guard the truth at all costs." Her voice, though laden with the weight of uncertainty, rang clear as a promise. It was a solemn vow to herself, to Drake, and to the legacy of their ancestors. As the insurgents retreated into the labyrinthine shadows from which they had emerged, the united defenders of the archive stood amidst the scattered relics of both triumph and sorrow. The echoes of the struggle reverberated through the cavernous vault as if to remind them that every victory came at a steep price. The secret corridors of the underground, which had borne witness to centuries of joy, grief, and rebellion, now hummed with the tension of battles yet to come. Outside the vault, as light began to reappear in scattered beams through cracks in the ancient ceiling, Drake and Runa exchanged a final, solemn glance, a silent understanding that the fight for redemption had irrevocably reshaped their future. Their united purpose, forged in the fires of conflict and tempered by the knowledge of their shared heritage, would serve as the cornerstone for an era of rebirth and renewal. Yet even as hope stirred anew within their hearts, a lingering sense of foreboding prevailed, whispering that the true enemy, one far more insidious than renegade shifters or petty conspiracies, still lurked in the depths of their conflicted world. In that suspended moment, as the echoes of battle faded into the subterranean hush, the future of their legacy hung in the balance, a precarious equilibrium between the promise of redemption and the ever-encroaching threat of betrayal. The destiny of the shifter realm was poised on the edge of a knife, and only the purity of their resolve could carve a path through the looming darkness. With the archive secure and their enemies momentarily repelled, Drake and Runa gathered their remaining allies. The cool underground air was thick with unspoken questions, each shifter silently aware that the night's events were only a harbinger of the trials to come. As they advanced from the vault towards a narrow exit that promised a glimpse of the outside world, a sudden tremor shook the ancient corridor. Dust cascaded from the crumbling ceiling and the ground beneath their feet quivered ominously, as if the very foundation of the ancient structure was protesting against the disturbance. Drake paused and surveyed his surroundings, his eyes narrowing at the source of the tremor. "Something else stirs beneath us," he whispered, a tremor of apprehension mingling with his resolute tone. His gaze fixed on a dark fissure that had split the floor, a chasm that pulsed with a mysterious, otherworldly energy. In that split second, as the allied shifters braced themselves for another confrontation, Runa reached out and gripped his hand, silently vowing that together they would confront whatever darkness lay ahead. The tremor intensified and a deep, resonant echo emerged from the fissure, a sound that was both a lament of ancient sorrow and a call to arms for those destined to bring about change. As the chasm widened, a beam of strange, iridescent light shot upward, momentarily blinding them with its brilliance. In that dazzling flash, the eyes of every defender were drawn to the mysterious glow, a portent that hinted at truths yet untold and threats that could eclipse even the formidable challenges they had faced that night. In that fragile intersection of destiny and dread, the fate of their world seemed to hang precariously in the balance. The whisper of the past, the clash of the present, and the promise of an uncertain future converged in a single haunting moment of clarity. With hearts pounding and resolve hardening as steel, Drake and Runa prepared to step forward into the unknown, their destinies forever entwined by a bond forged in the fires of conflict and illuminated by the light of a new promise. In the final hours before destiny reached its apotheosis, the underground fissure that had heralded untold possibilities now pulsed with an eerie light that set the stage for revelations destined to reshape the fabric of both worlds. The allied shifters, still trembling from the chaos of their recent confrontation, gathered in the vaulted corridor where the ancient archive had once been their bulwark of history and hope. Drake and Runa, bound together by blood, purpose, and the overwhelming desire to break free of a past wrought with betrayal, surveyed the scene before them, a labyrinthine nexus of crumbling stone, flickering luminescence, and the murmurs of voices that seemed to echo from all directions. The fissure at their feet widened, its iridescent glow intensifying to the point of blinding brilliance. From within its depths, a figure emerged unlike any other, a shifter whose form radiated with an ethereal light, his eyes holding the sorrow of eons and the wisdom of untold generations. As the spectral silhouette approached, the assembled defenders instinctively fell silent, their hearts pounding with both awe and trepidation. It was as if the fissure had birthed a messenger of fate, come to confront the legacy of countless ancestors and the fractured promises of a bygone era. "Drake, Runa," the figure intoned, his voice resonating like a chorus of distant memories, "your path has been paved with strife and darkness, but tonight, the hour of reckoning has come. I am Alaran, the last scion of a line once believed to be lost, a guardian appointed by the celestial covenant of our ancestors. In my veins runs the truth that you have been seeking, a truth not bound by treachery or forgotten vows but by love, sacrifice, and the imperishable strength of redemption." A hush fell over the gathering as Alaran's words slid into the charged air. His appearance was otherworldly, half his form shimmered in transparent hues, while the other half bore the physical scars of battles fought in realms not confined to human memory. His eyes, radiant with both sorrow and determination, locked onto Drake, whose heart felt as though it would burst from the gravity of the moment. Drake stepped forward, his voice resolute yet laced with vulnerability. "If you carry the truth that has haunted us for generations, then tell me now. What final betrayal, what secret covenant have we been blind to? Lay bare the legacy that binds our fates so that we might be free from these chains." His tone was one of both defiance and desperate hope, a plea for clarity amid the maelstrom of ancient grudges and bitter regrets. Alaran's gaze swept over the assembled allies and then rested again on Runa, whose eyes shimmered with the silent question of a legacy that had defined her every step. "Long ago," he began, "the realms of man and shifter were united by a pact sealed with both the promise of abundance and the curse of division. Your blood, Runa, it is said, springs from the union of the celestial and the terrestrial, a union forged in both divine love and mortal sorrow. And Drake, you are the embodiment of the reparation, the alpha chosen to mend a legacy marred by betrayal, to restore the equilibrium between two worlds frayed by ancient enmities." There was a collective intake of breath as Alaran's revelations rippled through the gathered congregation. A moment ago, the conflict had been measured solely in terms of power struggles and familial redemption. Now, layered beneath these personal quests was a grand design of cosmic proportions. one that beckoned them toward a destiny that transcended their individual histories. Runa's voice, trembling yet fierce, broke through the reverent silence. All my life I have wondered if the curses and secrets of my family were chains that could never be undone. But if what you say is true, then our pain, our constant struggle for liberation, was meant to lead us here, to the moment when the two worlds would converge and heal. Her words were not merely an outpouring of emotion, they were a declaration of purpose. Tell us, Alaran, what must be done to ensure that the legacy is redeemed and the sins of the past forgiven? Alaran's countenance softened, and he extended a hand toward Runa as if bestowing upon her the mantle of prophecy. There is a ritual, ancient and fraught with the echoes of both promise and peril. To bridge the divide between your bloodlines and heal the wounds of our forefathers, a sacrifice must be made, a sacrifice not of life, but of pride and a relinquishing of old hate. Drake, your leadership, though forged in the fires of past transgressions, has the power to heal what has been long fractured if you can face the shadows of your own soul. Drake's eyes glistened with pain as he recalled the betrayals and guilt that had haunted his every step. I have carried the weight of my ancestors' misdeeds like a cross, he admitted, his voice raw and earnest. All my life I have sought forgiveness, for myself, for my pack, for the very legacy that binds us. If there is truly a path to redemption, I am prepared to walk it, even if it means embracing the darkness that has defined me until now. Alaran nodded solemnly. Redemption, dear Alpha, is not the erasure of your past but its transformation. The ritual will summon the ancient energies that bind the realms, a confluence of celestial fire and earthly resolve. You and Runa must stand together, side by side, as the vessels of this reawakening. Only by merging your strengths can you overcome the legacy of betrayal and mend the divide that has haunted both your families for centuries. At that moment, an unexpected figure emerged from the shadows, a familiar presence with an enigmatic smile and eyes that betrayed a lifetime of hidden knowledge. Marisol, who had long served as the stalwart guardian of the clan, stepped into the pale radiance of the fisher's light. I have watched you both struggle with the burdens of your destiny, she said softly. There is more to this prophecy than we have yet been told. The forces that conspired against us, those who sought to keep the ancient covenant divided, have not yet been vanquished. Their machinations run deep, and even as we prepare for this ritual, there remains a final threat to our unified future. Her arrival added a new layer of urgency. The renegade shifters, once driven into hiding after the assault on the archive, had not all been defeated. There were those still lurking in the shadows, prepared to strike at the very moment when unity seemed within grasp. Marisol's words reminded them that the battle for redemption was not merely a symbolic act of reconciliation but a tangible confrontation with lingering enemies. Drake, emboldened by Alaran's revelations and Marisol's warning, addressed the assembly. Our mission is clear. We must complete the ritual and in doing so, open the portal between our fractured worlds. But we cannot do so in isolation. We must protect this sacred moment with every ounce of our strength until the ritual's conclusion, and beyond. I call upon every shifter here to stand as guardians of this new beginning. His voice carried the weight of a leader renewed, transformed by the clarity of a future unburdened by the sins of the past. Runa stepped forward, her hand still clasping Alaran's as she addressed those gathered. For so long our lives have been dictated by secrets and betrayals. No longer will we allow the sins of the past to dictate our future. Tonight we choose to unite, to embrace the prophecy and honor the potential for redemption that lives within each of us. Her declaration stirred murmurs of approval from allies old and new, melding together like a hymn of revival. Alaran guided them to a sanctified chamber carved into the deepest recesses of the tunnels, a space where the walls were adorned with ancient sigils and the air vibrated with the resonance of cosmic energy. There, upon a raised dais, lay an altar fashioned from obsidian and silver, etched with symbols that had witnessed the ebb and flow of countless eras. It was within this hallowed space that the ritual would be performed, a final act that promised to either shatter the shackles of ancient enmity or condemn them to eternal strife. As the allied shifters formed a protective circle around the dais, Alaran and Marisol began preparing the sacred implements, a chalice carved from crystalline quartz, a ceremonial dagger imbued with celestial fire, and a scroll inscribed with the incantations of old. Drake and Runa positioned themselves at the center, standing shoulder to shoulder, their expressions a mixture of determination and solemn acceptance. This is the moment to transmute our scars into strength, Alaran intoned, his voice reverberating through the chamber. Through your unity, the bridge between the realms shall be restored. A hush fell over the chamber as the ancient incantations began. The air thickened with a palpable energy, and the very stones underfoot seemed to pulse with the cadence of ancestral voices. Drake raised the ceremonial dagger, its blade shimmering with the promise of truth, while Runa unrolled the sacred scroll, her fingers steady despite the tremors of fate. Their eyes met in a shared, unspoken resolve. Here and now, the destiny of both realms rested upon their unwavering bond. A surge of light erupted from the altar, bathing the chamber in a radiant glow that momentarily silenced every heartbeat. As the incantations grew in power, spectral images swirled around them, visions of a past steeped in splendor and sorrow, of forbidden love and heart-wrenching betrayal, of the age-old conflict that had threatened to tear their world apart. In that transcendent moment, the boundaries of mortal and supernatural blurred, and the true nature of their shared legacy was laid bare in cascading hues of iridescent light. Within the maelstrom of visions, Drake experienced a searing clarity. He saw not only the horrors of his ancestors' misdeeds but also the transformative potential that had been kindled by love and sacrifice. In that overwhelming surge, he understood that redemption was born not from denying the past but by embracing it and forging a future that rose from its ashes. His voice, steady and resolute, rang out in the midst of the incantation. We cast aside the sins of our forebears. Let our unity be the beacon that guides us beyond the despair of yesterday into the promise of a new dawn. The chamber trembled as the incantation reached its zenith. In a blinding cascade of light and sound, a portal began to form, a swirling gateway that bridged the realm of shifters with the mortal world above, where hope and history converged. The portal's edge pulsed with the combined warmth of celestial fire and earthly resolve, promising to heal old wounds and rekindle lost honor. For a breathless moment, time seemed to suspend as every soul present bore witness to the culmination of generations of struggle. But in that exalted instant, a final test emerged. From the shadowed fringe of the chamber, the dissident shifters, those who had opposed unity at every turn, launched a desperate assault, determined to shatter the portal before its promise could be fulfilled. Their shrill cries and frantic charges disrupted the sacred harmony, threatening to plunge the chamber into chaos. Marisol and several steadfast allies immediately intercepted the onslaught, their resolve steeled by the recognition that the future depended upon the ritual's success. Drake, Runa, and Alaran united their energies, channeling the incantation's power to reinforce the nascent portal. In that heart-stopping moment, every blow exchanged in the chamber was not simply an act of defiance but a battle for the soul of their legacy. As the insurgents pressed with fanatic fervor, the protective circle glowed with an unyielding light, a brilliant testament to the unity of purpose that transcended individual strife. Runa's voice rang out above the clamor, imbued with the passion of one who had finally found her true calling. For every tear shed, every wound unhealed, our destiny is not to suffer in silence but to rise, united beyond the chains of our past. Her words ignited the spirits of those around her, and one by one the allied shifters gathered their strength, repelling the onslaught as a single cohesive force. In a final, cataclysmic surge of power, the portal solidified, its radiant arch bridging the ancient and the modern, the supernatural and the mortal. The opposing forces faltered, overwhelmed by the triumphant unity that now shone with incandescent brilliance. The insurrection was swiftly subdued, and as the echo of conflict faded into a solemn quiet, the portal pulsed as a living promise, a passage to a future where the legacy of pain could be transmuted into hope. With the portal firmly established, Alaran stepped forward once more, his ethereal aura softening into one of serene fulfillment. Tonight, the prophecy is fulfilled. The ritual is complete, and our worlds are rejoined not in conflict, but in a harmonious embrace of our shared truths. His words carried an ancient wisdom that resonated deep within every heart present. Drake and Runa, their hands intertwined and eyes shining with unshed tears of both relief and resolve, felt the weight of a burden finally lifted. In that transcendent moment, the scars of ancient betrayal began to mend, replaced by a luminous promise of renewal. Every whispered secret, every act of sacrifice had converged into the singular, transformative act of ascension, a moment when history's pain gave way to the purity of redemption. As the light of the portal bathed the chamber in an otherworldly glow, the allied shifters raised their voices in a single resolute chorus, a hymn of newfound unity that transcended centuries of division. The resounding chorus, echoing through the ancient tunnels and reverberating into the very soul of the land, heralded the dawning of a new era. An era where the legacy once defined by betrayal would now be celebrated as the crucible that forged a community capable of transcending the sins of the past. In the quiet aftermath, as the spectral light gradually subsided and the portal's energy stabilized into a steady, life-affirming beacon, Drake addressed his people with a voice tempered by both humility and unwavering resolve. We have emerged from the crucible of our own making, not unscathed but transformed. Let this night mark the end of our divisions and the beginning of a shared journey toward a future defined by hope, unity, and the endless promise of redemption. The atmosphere, once charged with the electric tension of impending doom, now hummed with a deep, resonant peace, a peace born of battles waged and demons confronted. And in that profound silence, every soul present understood that the journey toward healing was far from over, but that together they now possessed the strength, the knowledge, and the unity required to shape a destiny unbound by the misfortunes of the past. In the final, heart-stirring moments as the allied shifters stepped forth from the sanctified chamber toward the promise of the portal and the dawn beyond, the ancient fisher whispered one last benediction, a whisper that carried the timeless message of transformation and the infinite possibility of starting anew.